So, as you have been hearing, we've been covering this extensively in the first hour of the programme. The government yesterday announced plans for a social media ban for under 16s. On the line to talk to us more about this is Dr. Riley Willis, who's the Senior Lecturer and Course Leader in Law from the University of Suffolk. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. How about yourself?
Good. I'm all right, thank you. So my notes say here that that you are the course leader in law, but you do have a particular interest in the effects of social media, and you're interested in this ban for under 16s particularly. So but let's start at the beginning. I have kind of already gone through the government have a fact sheet on their website that we've kind of been looking at as to what they're proposing. But if you can just explain for anybody new that might be listening or is not too familiar with what is this that the government is proposing, first of all?
Yeah, so essentially the government is proposing, as we've said, a ban for social media platforms for under 16s. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, the ban's going to cover Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, which we formerly know as Twitter. And the ban is set to come into effect around Christmas time, perhaps early 2027.
Yep.
And what this will mean is that anyone who is under 16 will they will be kicked off social media, and in order to set up a social media account, there will be age verification technology put in place.
Yep.
There are other aspects to the proposal that will put additional restrictions onto accounts for people who are between 16 and 18, thinking about things like curfews, to cut down on overnight doom scrolling, and to cut down on direct messaging, being contacted by strangers, and romantic chatbots.
Yeah, I didn't actually know what romantic chatbots were until yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it does what it says on the tin, but perhaps we don't want to go down that road.
No. We'll leave it at romantic chatbots.
So I understand from my producer that you are the parent of under 16. Is that right?
I absolutely am, yeah.
So how do you feel about this as a parent?
As a parent, the main upshot is this is not giving parents any tools they don't already have. This is not going to fix the problems. And I say this all the time. I am nothing if not consistent. The problem is not ever the age of the user. The problem is the addictive nature and the harmful design of the platforms themselves. No ban is going to fix that.
Yeah.
No ban has been proven to be effective, and this is not going to fix the problem. The problem is in the design of the platforms, and that has recently been recognized by some court cases in the U.S.
Right.
that are saying exactly that. They're negligence cases, they're product liability cases. They're saying the product itself is harmful, and the platform knew that it was harmful, and yet they continue to put it into the market knowing that it's harming users. And that is illegal. And that is, if the social media platforms weren't addictive and harmful and doom scrolling and all the other lists of things that they do, then we wouldn't have to just have this outright ban. And obviously people are having varied perspectives on this.
Yeah.
I think some people probably appreciate the signal that it sends, but in terms of actually protecting children, it is not going to do anything.
So with that in mind then, if the platforms themselves are kind of starting to be, recognizing that the content and the way that they work themselves are at fault here, and they're going to ultimately be losing out a lot on this if this goes through, because the amount of traffic that they're going to have on their platforms is going to go down, and therefore that's going to impact the amount of money that they're going to make through, advertising and all these sorts of things. Do you think this would kick them into gear in terms of changing what they're doing and what their platforms are offering to, I don't know whether this can be stopped or whether this has to go to a vote in the House of Commons or whatever. But do you think it might force more action against these social media companies because the government are getting tougher?
I don't, because we didn't see that in Australia.
Right.
Australia introduced the under-16s ban a while ago. We've had enough time to see what it's done. And by all accounts, all reports are saying it's done almost nothing. That we just simply, there are so many ways around our age verification technology that there has been, nigh on no impact. All teenagers are still on social media. Very, very, very few have gotten kicked off, and those who have managed to very, very easily find ways around it. And so I think that had a worse effect, where platforms are now saying, well, the bans aren't doing anything. Let's carry on.
And I guess this is very difficult to enforce as well.
It's I'm going to throw some numbers out there.
Okay.
It is incredibly difficult to enforce. So we already have, in theory, a ban on social media for under 13s, right? So you have to be at least 13 in this country to be on social media. That has existed for a while, already in existence. The most recent Ofcom report that explored children's use of media found, and it's a really robust study, and they have very strong methods and methodology. So I really trust these numbers, which is saying a lot because I'm super skeptical. 37% of 3 to 5-year-olds are on social media. 36% of 6 to 7-year-olds, 63% of whom have their own profiles on social media. That goes up to 57% of 8 to 9-year-olds are on social media, with 69% having their own profiles. And 81% of 10 to 12-year-olds are on social media, 86% of whom have their own profiles. Now, they're already banned, right?
Yeah.
That's it. So that our own government agency is saying it's not going to work. It's just not. And I don't know if the signal is enough to actually create change. Phones are already banned in schools. We've made that step in the right direction. But it's just not going to make a difference. Like I said, we've already got an under 13 ban, yet 81% of 10 to 12-year-olds are already on social media.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about that Ofcom report is that it includes WhatsApp.
Right.
And WhatsApp is not included. So Ofcom says WhatsApp is social media. The new ban is not going to include WhatsApp. So there's a little bit of work, I think, to be done there in terms of figuring out, well, what are we actually saying is social media and what isn't.
Do you think the reason why they've left WhatsApp out is because they recognise that children will still need some method of communicating with their parents or whatever, and you take all of those messaging apps away, then they won't be able to, and maybe WhatsApp is the least unsafe of some of the other options?
I think it's because the definition they've set out for social media is that kind of interaction with strangers and posting content to the wider world, and the doom scrolling, right? The scrolling through content, which is not what WhatsApp does. But equally, and I feel like I have to remind people this a lot, we can still text message.
Yes.
There are ways to communicate that don't involve WhatsApp. We all chatted before we had WhatsApp.
That is true.
But anyhow, maybe that just shows my age.
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree. I remember
the world existed before WhatsApp.
I remember when mobile phones were all the rage when I was at school, and text messaging was this is incredible technology.
Oh, I'll never forget getting my first text message.
It was to show how technology's moved on.
Yeah.
So the government will say, and they start this fact sheet that say we've been reading on the website. They'll say that they've conducted a consultation over the last 3 months, and they say there's an overwhelming public demand for action. 9 out of 10 parents backing social media ban for under 16s, and 2/3 of young people agreeing that under 16s should not be allowed. to use social media. But from the general vibe from the news since it came out yesterday is that nobody does want this, particularly the under 16s. So where are these people that they've polled?
That's an excellent question. And without getting political, so I'll try to stay as neutral as possible, things aren't going great for the government at the moment, so maybe it's a good time to bring out something that they think is going to increase, approval ratings and popularity votes.
Yeah.
So is this really coming from the right motivation?
Yep.
I'll just leave that as a question.
Well, I think I read yesterday that Keir Starmer was asked about this at some point within the last year or so, and said that he wasn't in favour of bringing this in. And then,
yes,
as you say, things change and people's minds change for some reasons.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I'd be very interested to see how the poll was conducted, because it very much depends on how the questions are worded. So if they said, do you want the government to take more action to protect young people? Heck yeah, everyone's going to say yes. Do you think the solution is a ban for under 16s that's only going to address these platforms? Maybe not. So it really, really depends on who they asked and what they asked, and how unbiased it was in terms of getting the results they were looking for.
Yeah. Let me put these two opinions to you. I've been asking listeners their opinions, and these two opinions are polar opposites, I would say. I'll read them both to you, and then I'll get your thoughts on them. So first of all, Lottie says, personally, I think this is awful. Teenagers reach out online and find connection with others. They get support that they may not have at home or in school. I personally grew up with friends all around the world and find my online friendships are much stronger than those in real life, because you find a niche fandom that you can all share passions and enjoy them with. In my opinion now, teenagers are more at risk as they're likely to lie about their age, which will bypass the features the platforms put in place to protect them. And then Leon says, I think it's a great thing. Social media has been proven to be catastrophic to the brain, especially in the developmental stage. It's depleted children out of dopamine, impairs decision-making, weakens the ability to form social bonds, and puts children at risk of grooming, misinformation and depression. Also, as former employees of Meta and Google have stated, the algorithms created mainly for short-form content are unethical and made to be extremely addictive. I would support a ban on social media for everyone, but that will take some time. What do you think about those two opinions?
I'm going to give you a really frustrating answer in that they are both correct if the platforms were designed in a safe way.
Yeah.
Right? So, Nancy, I totally agree with. We've seen in the Australia ban that what it is doing is children are lying about their age, which means they're getting over 18 accounts, right? So they can do anything, anywhere. And it is pushing them. I never agree with the platforms, but the platforms did comment that part of the problem in Australia is they're then turning to other sites that aren't affected by the ban, and they're in a much darker, less accessible, regulatorily speaking place, right? So, Nancy's right. Banning it creates new dangers and takes away what can be a really important lifeline. Leon is also correct because the platforms are exceptionally harmful. There are proven connections and correlations between social media use and poor mental health outcomes, particularly for children, but not exclusively. So I like how he's also said it's bad for everybody, but particularly more vulnerable children. Their brain development is physiologically more susceptible to the harms from the social media platforms. But if there are more lawsuits like we had in the States, and if we go down the product liability negligence route, and if social media platforms completely changed their design so they were not intentionally harmful and addictive, then both Nancy and Leon can, be right and have their opinions shine through.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it's an interesting topic. It's one that a lot of people have got an opinion on, whether they're directly affected by it with children or not. I said earlier on that if you are over 16, you don't have kids, then maybe you're not necessarily affected by this. But actually, Shaz has pointed out that she's got family members who game online. They're much older, and a lot of these chat functions are being taken away by these developers already in preparation for these sort of rules. It's easier for them just to do do away with it rather than introduce some sort of age verification thing. So the older people are suffering as well. So it's quite interesting. It's not just parents and under 16s, but it could impact all of us. And I guess it all also links into the government's increasing insistence that we need to, verify our ID and share our details in order to prove who we are.
Well, and I'm not okay with that either. I mean, Facebook has already essentially gotten in trouble for misusing personal data. Now, suddenly, we're all going to have to give over additional amounts of personal data to these platforms that we know can't be trusted. So when we look at data protection in GDPR, there's a whole other realm of rights that are about to be at risk and violated if we're all suddenly going to have to start engaging with age verification left, right, and center. Yeah. And there's Pandora's box of concerns there.
Yeah. I will, as a final line on that, I will say that the government, say Ofcom, will set out in the coming months, and we'll also have to come back to this topic, forms of effective age verification and assurance for proving whether someone is aged over 16 that are accurate, robust, reliable, and fair. So we'll have to see what they come up with.
I burst out laughing when I read that bit. Yeah, right.
Thank you, Dr. Riley Willis, for spending some time talking to us about this morning. You're clearly very passionate, but also have lots of very valid views. And thank you for listening to some of our listeners as well. It's been a pleasure to talk to you this morning.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Gen X Radio. Gen X Radio.
The heart of Suffolk.